All right, everyone. My heart is completely broken right now because I just recorded like a long ass hail video. We went into multiple rabbit holes. I didn't actually have a lot of code to showcase, but we just naturally happened to go through multiple rabbit holes, and I feel like I said some smart things that I really wish were recorded, but they are not. I will do my best to recreate it. So, very simply, I'm just gonna do git log and show you everything I did from last time. So, the first thing I did, the thing I did after the last video was to add a mechanism to disable colors. Actually, I'm gonna pause recording and double check that that's all right. Back to recording. Um, so the last most substantial thing I did was the change to the colors mechanism. That was a few videos ago, 3 videos ago, because last video I got into doing the UV logging, not UV logging thing, the UV tool install versus UV install dev versus the VS Code bundled UV thing. Um, So, and then the last episode, I got into uninstalling my old Python because that was just dumb. So this episode, we're just gonna continue on from changed colors mechanism, removed a few to-dos. That was literally just clean up. There was a few to-dos that I'd already done, so I just cleared them up. Added mechanism to disable color, so that is where we started last episode. Oh, also one of the to-dos I removed, I'm just gonna get into this really quickly, is the logging filters to do. For those of you who haven't been following along, um I had a to do where I was gonna set up a logging filter for the UVcorn application. Started a thing right here, as you can see. Because I have one, and this is the one from UVcorn, and I was just like, I didn't want to get two of essentially the same log, not literally, but essentially. Um, and I was gonna add a logging filter to remove that, and a major part of the motivation was to just learn logging filters. And one, I was like, okay, we'll get to it when we get to it because it's really not that important, and I understand the concept of logging filters enough that I'm confident enough it won't take me too long if we do really have to do logging filters. And on top of that, here, there's also this thing about the 12-factor app. Um, so the 12-factor app is essentially like a set of methodologies for developing apps. And the second last one is called logs. And this is the important statement from that that also pushed me over the edge and just allowed me to like just get rid of the logging filter to do is that a 12-factor app never concerns itself with routing or storage of its output stream. It should not attempt to write to or manage log files. Instead, each running process writes its event stream unbuffered to std out. During local development, the developer will view the stream in the foreground of the terminal to observe the app's behavior. In staging production deploys, each process stream will be captured by the execution environment collated together with all other streams from the app and routed to one or more final destinations for viewing and long-term archival. So essentially what this is saying is the app should not be fucking around with logging other than putting it to the terminal or std out. Um, which I might just rename my thing to std out. That might be a small thing I'll do. You know what? I'll just do that right now. Screw it. Logging config YAML because I just wanted to be different from what ChatGPT was saying, but STD out makes a lot more sense. And where's the handler set? STD out. There you go. Um, and essentially, that pushed me over the edge, and I just got rid of the logging filters to do. Okay. Um, Following along from that, what was the next thing I did? Added mechanism to disable color, so that's what I was talking about. Um, where did it go? Okay, yeah, so I need to start from the top. So I created a def dunder init, and this looks overly complicated, but before I explain it, I want to show you guys something because you're like, oh, I wrote all that from the last time. No, I did not actually. I just did init, def dunder init, and boom, it did that. And it's really an extension of the type hinting being super strong. So logging.form, because I inherit from logging.formatter, it instantly knows that this is like the types of everything, right? And I don't know if Ruff put this together or if it is just my language server or some sort of combo of both. Because I think the Ruff native server thing is meant to work in conjunction with Pylance. So I think both of them together have put this together, which is awesome. Um, it honestly makes me think I should install Pyrite or whatever, like wherever Pylance uses its language server from as a dev dependency. Fuck, I'm gonna do that. All right. Uh, Jesus Christ, I just keep adding to-dos. To-do. Actually, I'm gonna add that here. To-do colon um add Pylance backend as dev dependency. So, anyways, back to what I was saying. Um, Whatever it is, like it just gave me all the typing and everything I needed right here, just boom, right away. And I mostly left it like that. And the change I'll explain in a moment what the change I did was. Um, because I could have replaced it with something like stashar quarks, comma space, and then hash, something like that, colon, and then replace this whole thing with quarks. Oh, sorry, stashar quarks, because that's another thing we got into in the unrecorded lost episode was what is the difference between stashar quarks and a function and this thing? Because I always thought it was unpacking a dictionary, and I thought it was the opposite. Sorry, I also thought it was the opposite. I was just getting confused, and I'm like, wait, then why do we do stashar quarks in a function? And I was my both worlds coalesce into one because both were true. So stashar quarks in the function will collect all additional arguments, keyword arguments that are passed that are not understood to be a part of the keyword arguments explicitly defined will be collected into quarks as a dict. So inside of this function, there'll be quarks, and it can be accessed with keys, and they will have some value. Like, I mean, this is actually assigning a value to quarks, but you know what I mean, right? You can print whatever, right? So we got into that in the last episode as well. But the reason I did not do that and instead just did the thing that was spit out for me was because I spent some time thinking about this. The main reason I stuck with it is because essentially this just makes it explicit and easy for anyone who's using this. It's like, oh, this is everything. Instead of like, okay, what logging formatter take? Is there anything I can tweak if there's something they ever need to tweak, right? Like, okay, this is everything. Boom, we're done, right? Um, so I stuck with that, except for one thing. So you'll see over here, if I hover over validate, you'll see Boolean type positional argument in function definition, Boolean default positional argument in function definition. So essentially, what these two are saying, why is it bad? Calling a function with a Boolean positional argument is confusing the meaning of the Boolean value, is not clear to the caller and to future readers of the code. So people who will just see like someone uses function and then comma space true, it's like they don't know what true or false is for, right? So that is not good. Um, and there's FBT 002 and 001. I think this is one that checks for um, positional arguments and function definitions as determined by the presence of a Boolean default value. So it looks for Boolean default values, and then that separately also checks for positional argument in general that is typed bool, and both are bad for the same reason essentially. And the way you fix that is by adding a star, which they also add. Where's validate? I'm gonna move my face. Uh, yeah. So validate is over here, and then you can see over here somewhere. Ah, yeah, right next to validate is the star. And basically, star is a special character reserved in function definitions that says that everything past this argument, aka star, is needs to forcibly be passed as a keyword argument, right? So that's essentially the only difference I kept from what was inherited. Um, Over here, and I also opened it up. Well, I think maybe Ruff opened it up for me. I don't know. And then self dot disable colors equals disable colors super init format blah blah blah. So all I do is I add an additional boolean called disable colors, and I set it to self. And then in the coloring function, which is the format function, the coloring function, I wish it was called that. Um, we dump the doc, right? And then we check if self.disable colors is true, which by default it is. And the reason for that is because I feel like maybe uh, when we go back, when we start capturing logs from STD out in like deployment environments, like I feel like the colors might get in the way. Who knows? I'm not 100% sure. So we shall see on that. Um, and then just sets up um just returns that, um or it goes gets the color, does the original thing that I had set up basically. Well, or the second implementation of the original thing where I just swapped everything out for a case match case. I keep calling them switch statements even though I know they're not. I think that's from Java, maybe, I don't remember. So this thing worked pretty good. And I just kept it that way. What was the next thing I did? And that's how I disabled colors. I think there was an additional commit where I made another small change where initially I was putting this color fit block over here. Show you where, like over here. And that didn't make sense. Like, oh, that should be after the check for disabled colors, because why even get it if I'm not gonna print it? So I just moved that back down. That was another change I made. After that, I just ran a format check on the file, see if there's anything to be done. There was a few changes, so I committed that. Updated the location of color call. Oh, sorry, that's what I just said. Updated exception formatting. So once again, just like previously, I just had this got spit out for me. Um, and it had, so the type exception info, which is what a log record holds, is actually a tuple of and this I really like this, by the way. I'm sorry to get sidetracked, but I in increasing verbosity, but with the language server and everything, I'm just like learning so much more about how these things work, because all of the typing and the formatting is set up. I love this, by the way. I'm just saying. Um, so the exception info object is essentially a tuple, which is gives you the type of the exception itself, and the traceback type, which is essentially just the mem info location of the traceback or something like that, which I decided not to print out, and I just do stir ei this. I actually didn't even need to do that. If I just do return ei, it'll still work, but it just complains that I'm overloading the format exception in an inappropriate way, because the original function from logging formatter returns a string. So to stay consistent with that, yeah, you should return a string. So I did that. But honestly, if you pump this directly into JSON dumps, it still um, it still does that, and I still stuck with it because if anyone extends this or whatever, I'm gonna stop talking about the benefits of typing and staying with the typing and all that because this is kind of the best of both worlds. Working with Python now, wherein like I have the flexibility of Python because this is essentially type hinting, which can be used for more powerful validation, but isn't necessarily enforced. So you can have more Pythonic code at places and also have like amazing type completion. So that's really nice. Um, so I just did the string first to make it consistent with that, and essentially just to showcase that, I'm gonna hit boom really quickly. Control tab. As you can see, just gives you the exception, the type of the exception, and then the exception itself, and that's it. No stack trace. Um, Small caveat regarding this is basically like as you can see the func name raised was run ASCII. So if you like while you're developing and you're just learning a code base, this would be actually pretty okay because you can check where your issue is in regards to the rest of the code base because the function name and everything is given. But when it's deeper down, it's harder to say like where did this break without the stack trace. Um, and so and honestly, it's still okay with development, but if something like some sort of error is happening in prod that silently got passed in development, it'll be hell trying to figure it out, right? It'll be really difficult. I mean, it's already really difficult based on how big the app actually becomes, but yeah. So that's a caveat, and I'm already aware of that. And changes will need to meet here if stack trace is needed. I already added a note. And then if you see this to do no QA and 802. So if I do this, essentially I get a rough complaining about function name should be lowercase, aka snake case, which I did not do because essentially uh, then it's not overloading the actual logger.formatter method. And so if someone else actually calls logger a self.format exception here, it would actually call the parent one. So you don't want to have that confusion, right? Um, because then it'll just be a brand new function that's just of this class and it's not inherited per se. So yeah, that's why I did that, and I've set this no QA, and I have this to do to update the YAML. Um, Actually, it's PyProject HOML. Um, where this needs to be updated. So updated so that this particular function name is ignored for this particular rule rather than just suppressing the warning with a comment. Whew. Um, yeah, and also I added the inherited exception formatting bool and I set it to false. And essentially that's to if we need to go back to the OG formatting for giving the stack trace as well. Um, we can just switch to that really quickly here. Um, what else? What was the next thing I did? Updated exception formatting, amended formatting to drop tasteback type move to do so the thing I just described. Actually, that was the thing I did last. Yeah, I'm bummed out about the longer video that is now lost forever, but I'm running out of energy because however long this video was, plus an additional hour is how long I've been talking. So I'm gonna end this video now. Have a great one, everyone. Bye bye. Where's my? Oh, there it is.